Hello everybody, it's Elena. The project that I'm gonna share with you today is a little vintage fabric book, and it is a project I had more fun making since I started to craft because I didn't care at all about symmetry, about tidiness, so it will probably look like a bit of a mess, but I really had fun making it, and I put in it everything I wanted to. And it looks vintage because the majority of embellishments I used, both laces, trims, and even some pearls, are vintage. And the trims and lace that are not vintage have been tea stained or tea dyed in order to look old. So here is the fabric book. I made it all with felt and covered each page with cream satin, and I'm very proud to say that for the first time in my life I sewn it, the pages and the silk and the satin, with using a sewing machine. It's the first time I've ever done that in my life, and I loved how the pages turned out. So let's start with the first page. I covered every page using a vintage table runner I cut into pieces, and for the first page I used this beautiful image. All the images in the book are from Pinterest, and I framed it using this piece, and this is very old and a bit frayed, and then I tea stained two appliques I cut individually from a strip of roses, and I added two vintage pearls in the center. Then I added this string of flat back pearls. I love them and I use them in many projects. And on the bottom of the page I added this piece, some gathered trim that goes around on the back page too. I added to the scallops of the lace, I added some yellow trim. It's very soft and gorgeous. And then this, which is a really old piece from a garment, and I didn't leave it as it was because I wanted to give it a shabbier look. So in some parts I fussy cut it around the leaves and the flowers. And on the side of the page I used this light pink vintage trim. On the bottom I also added this beautiful pale gold trim, and this is a seed bead sort of braid. It goes from here to the back page. The second page is a pocket page, and the material I use here, it's lace, was already scalloped, but I added some gathered trim, a very delicate trim on it. Then I made a pocket with vintage fabric. I added some pearls, some trims, and this is a crochet piece I made. I just doubled it and added a flat back pearl. On the side I put this gathered lace, and on the top of the page this is a tiny vintage lace, and I added this one too. This was its original color, and I assume it's very old. So I didn't want then to leave the pocket empty, so I put an image of a lovely vintage lady, and I tried to make something out of a tag, a cardboard tag, So I made a little pocket, and let me take them out. I edged it all using this beautiful elasticated trim, with which I made also this tiny flower. I added a glass bead. On the bottom I placed just a piece of vintage trim, and exactly as on the front, this is another piece I cut from the table runner, and then I put two small keys inside. I don't know why, but I love this kind of keys. And like I said, I just made something not to leave the pocket empty. And then this is the page I like best. Actually, this page has lots of new elements in it, and the image comes from Pinterest, as I said at the beginning. I added a tiny bling as an earring, and all these trims are new, and I just stained them. This is a piece I individually cut from a strip, and it looks like an applique. I made, I crocheted this carnation, and I put a glass bead in the center, and this flower is made by 3 pieces I crocheted, and I put an awesome bling in the center. I cut these flowers in individual pieces because this is a trim with small dangles, and I put a seed bead in the center of each flower, and the color matches more or less all the rest of the book. Then I cut this from the table runner, and I left it dangling, and I just put 2 resin roses, one on each side of it, and the same dangle I made with the trim I used in the middle of the pages. I let it dangle and add just a pearl. And then underneath the scallops I added 2 more pieces I cut from the same table runner, and the same is on the bottom of the page. And for the side I used a hem of a nightgown, and I like how it flops like this. It is bigger than the rest of the things I put on the side of the pages, but that's what I like. And this is a couple of doily pages. I don't know if the details can be seen because the colors are very similar, so I'll try my best to show them. Underneath it's a white lace, and I edged both sides of the page with this gorgeous heart-shaped trim, and this is a vintage applique. I believe it comes from a kit I bought from Fiona, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, I'm sure this beautiful doily, the white one, comes from a kit I purchased from her. I added this piece underneath the applique, and then on the top of the page there this fraying cotton piece, and at the bottom it's a lace I love. It's vintage. It starts with this part. It's another part of the nightgown where this one comes from. Then there is this delicate lace, this pleated fabric, to which I added just some pearls, and in the and some flatback pearls here and there. In the center, like I said, there's a white doily, and I added on top a doily I made, and I hope you can see them. I scattered seed beads here and there on the white doily, on the other one, and the ones here are the center of tiny resin flowers. I used bigger resin flowers around this doily and put a pearl as a center, and on one side I made a flower cluster, but I don't know if it has something to do with the book, but anyway I liked it, and the flowers pick up the color of all the book. I added some pearl trims and some ribbon, and just a string of pearls here. And this is the doily page, and then the other one. The lace here is not vintage, but I love the color and the pattern. It fits well with the book. And I added on the side just this vintage. It's really deteriorated, but I love the look. I tea-dyed it, and I added this, letting it dangle on the side. And on the bottom of the page I add this crochet piece, crochet trim, just to mask a thick seam binding piece, to which I added these, hope you can see them, these dangles. Actually I thread them to the seam binding piece, and each dangle is made of elongated seed beads, to which I added a teardrop, tiny pearl, and a really tiny seed beads at the end. Well, I'm not sure everything can be shown properly, because these elements are really tiny, and I was so pleased with it. And although seed beads are quite a nightmare, I found out I enjoy threading them. So I then put this old piece of trim in between the two pages. I gathered this lace and put this already gathered lace on top, on part of the side, and I used for the first time this awesome cameo, and this is gorgeous. Actually I've ordered 4 of them, 2 cream, 2 silver bluish. In the first order I ever placed with Fiona, it was last year in spring, I think, and I've never used them because in my opinion they were too beautiful, and it was sort of wasting them to use them in a project. But then I decided that I couldn't keep them forever, so I added one to this project, and I think it fits perfectly. Then there is just a string of flatback pearls at the bottom of the page. This page is mainly built up with appliques IT stained, and in the middle there's some lace IT dyed, some trim, IT dyed. This piece of the material, well, I don't know the name of this kind of rope, but I thought it fits. I thought it fit perfectly in this page as a part of a frame of this image. I added to this image a tiny bling as a ring, and seed beads on the headband, and here in the middle of her dress. And then I tea-dyed all these appliques I cut from other appliques or strips of trims, and I added seed beads too, here in the center of some leaves, and here too. No, actually this is a string of beads. I added some pearls here, and like I said, more of this shabby lace, and I built up flower using this gorgeous soft lace, and this vintage doily. I didn't make them, I didn't make this one comes from a kit, and I had this vintage earring. It is even a bit rusty at the edges, so, and I liked it this way, and I put it as the center of the flower. And then here is the last page. The last page is totally asymmetrical. See, okay, because I added this trim in a sort of diagonal line. This is still the seed bead, how can I say, the seed bead braid that starts here, and I made these lovely looped flowers. They are two flowers, the bigger and the smaller one. I love the shabbiness of it. I made it using already frayed vintage lace, and in the center I put another vintage earring. Then there are the scallops of the same table runner I used all around the book. And as for, oh sorry, I added this other small doily I made with a heart, a resin heart. And for the spine, I kept the spine, as I sewn the book together, I kept the spine quite thick because I knew I wanted to put lots of things on each page. And on the spine I just added this braid. It is a very old one I found in a box I had around the house. It already had a knot here, and I put it on top of this piece of trim, and I don't know, it sort of reminds me a bookmarker, I think it's its name, the one you put among the pages of a book, a bookmark probably. Well, and I love the color. This is not dyed, it was like this. So I hope you like my little book, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.